Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
We're reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is. Text number. We have a number?
Chapter 241.
No, it's somewhere around 64, 65.
I was told it would be 64.
64 it is.
Okay, good. That's good. Ragadvesha vimuktastu Vishayan indriyaischaran Atmavasyayar vidhyayatma Prasadam adhigacchati Ragadvesha vimuktastu Vishayan indriyaischaran Atmavasyayar vidhyayatma Prasadam adhigacchati Ragadvesha vimuktastu Vishayan indriyaischaran Atmavasyayar vidhyayatma Prasadam adhigacchati. Ragadvesha vimuktastu Vishayan indriyaischaran Atmavasyayar vidhyayatma Prasadam adhigacchati. Ragadvesha vimuktastu Vishayan indriyaischaran Atmavasyayar vidhyayatma Prasadam adhigacchati. Ragadvesha vimuktastu Vishayan indriyaischaran Atmavasyayar vidhyayatma Prasadam adhigacchati.
Ragadvesha vimuktastu
Ragadvesha vimuktastu
Vishayan indriyaischaran
Vishayan indriyaischaran
Atmavasyayar vidhyayatma
Atmavasyayar vidhyayatma
Prasadam adhigacchati.
Prasadam adhigacchati. Raga, attachment, dvesha, and detachment, vimuktai, by one who has become free from, tu, but, vishayan, sense objects, indriyai, by the senses, charan, acting upon, atmavasyai, under one's control, vidheya atma, one who follows regulated freedom, prasadam, the mercy of the Lord, adhigacchati, attains. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Purport. It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall. Where is it already explained? Yeah. Who are the examples cited by Srila Prabhupada? Vishwamitra Muni, yeah. Who else? Hmm?
No, the other one was Ambarish Maharaj was the example of who was.
Durvasa Muni.
No.
Durvasa Muni was a great yogi. But what was his problem? Huh? Yes, angry as a result of what? Pride. Yeah, pride. So we've got Durvasa Muni, Vishwamitra. That's the one I use. Solbari Muni, he's my favourite. That's usually the example that I use. Yes. Now, Ambarish Maharaj is an example of a humble householder, Vaishnava. Of course, Ambarish Maharaj had plenty to be proud of. He was the ruler of the whole. Was it the universe? Huh? Earth. Yeah. So he was, but still a humble devotee. Humble devotee. Who's the other example that Prabhupada gives of an exemplary Vaishnava who was able to withstand the temptation of Maya? It's giving it away. Haridas Thakur. Yes, Haridas Thakur. So it is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process. Prabhupada refers to the Ashtanga Yoga system as being an artificial, because it's a holding on, kind of a restraining process. But unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall. Right? There is every chance of a fall. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane, because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable. And if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control, because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gunanjana Salakaya Chakshurum Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadhati Swapadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Garim Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam. So, there is every chance of a fall. Okay, here's a test. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the central... Yeah. Okay, we'll cover this bit here. So, what does it mean that the devotee may apparently be on the sensual plane? What does that mean?
Well, whereas some other transcendentalists restrict their eating, the devotee eats very nice prasadam.
Very good.
Use the other microphone.
Yeah, you can. Otherwise, we'll be switching. Do we need to record everything?
It's recorded and it's on the air, on the FM. So,
On the FM as well. Okay, fair enough.
so,
Yep,
so it doesn't seem like a one-sided thing.
yep.
This thing is still tangled up.
Yeah, this is the internet age, so you never know who's listening and what they're saying about you. And
Everybody's listening.
everybody's listening.
Hare
And
Krishna.
we're not falling asleep.
What?
And we're not falling asleep.
So, other people might restrict their eating by eating simple foods like khichdi, but the devotee eats very nice prasadam. Yes, it's on.
Yeah, it's on. Yeah, good, very good example. Very good example. The devotees are acting with the senses, and the yogis are trying to control the senses by restriction. But a devotee is happy to engage his senses in Krishna's service. What's the example given in a previous verse of the devotee? Who is the devotee compared to or with? Impersonalists.
No.
Yes, it does. It does, but
Are you thinking of the tortoise?
yes, the tortoise. Yeah, the tortoise. The tortoise is active when it's safe to act, and when it's not safe to act, it withdraws its limbs. So similarly also, a devotee who's able to control his senses is happy to engage in activities that are related to Krishna. We are swimming in the, what is it, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, right? What are the devotees are likened to, in Rupa Goswami's example, what are the devotees likened to?
Sharks.
Sharks that enjoy swimming in the ocean depths of the nectar of devotion. But if it's danger, if there's some danger, or shall we say there are allurements by the illusory energy, then a devotee knows how to withdraw his or her senses so as not to engage in activity. So basically we have, as our regulations, we have in the bhakti process, we have our yama and niyama. That is, things that we should embrace and do, and which we'll do enthusiastically and wholeheartedly. And there are other actions or activities which are avoided. You know, we have very basic principles of renunciation. What are the basic principles of renunciation for the Vaishnavas? Yeah. 4 regulated principles. Right? Very simple. No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. And, you know, for most devotees, those activities are quite abhorrent. Right? How many of us think about eating meat? Please raise your hands. We just don't even, you know, it doesn't. Actually, I remember having a dream once, and I was eating a pie or something, and I thought, oh, this is horrible, what am I doing this for? So we don't think of, how many of us contemplate gambling? No? Waste of money. Throw your money away. You might as well, if you're gambling, you might as well just go and give your money to somebody else. Just go and give it in charity, it's better for you. Intoxication. How many of us are thinking about taking intoxication? If of any of the 4 rules and regulations, this one can be problematic for some beginning devotees, or even not so beginning devotees. And then illicit sex, this is more troublesome. The younger one is, the more troublesome the senses, especially the attraction or the allurement, shall we say, of the opposite gender. And Prabhupada says, you know, Lord Chaitanya taught by example that one has to become free from this allurement. Most difficult to give up, and is a test. Prabhupada says the more one is free from sex desire, that's the test of how much advancement we have made. But generally speaking, most steady devotees don't have a problem with following the regulative principles. In the association of the devotees, especially those who are more advanced and those devotees who are pure at heart, then even a neophyte can be enthused to easily follow the regulated principles. We've seen by the association of Srila Prabhupada so many can we say neophytes? Yes? So many neophyte devotees became fixed up transcendentalists. Of course, also we see that many of those devotees who are attracted to Krishna consciousness also have fallen by the wayside. Huh? Not everybody is able to take advantage of that association and make progress. Even when Srila Prabhupada was present, his disciples were leaving Krishna consciousness, not fully receiving the mercy of the Lord and still being allured by the material energy. It doesn't mean that the process doesn't work, it means that it requires effort, just as Mukunda Datta Prabhu said this morning in class. You know, if it was easy, then where are all those devotees that I joined with in 19... and then you can put in the date that you joined Krishna consciousness, or even 2000. You know, there are devotees who have left even later. So by good association and by following the regulated principles, one can make progress. by following the positive injunctions, the positive recommendations that are given by the acharyas, one can gradually progress such that one achieves the full mercy of Krishna. And in the process of receiving the full mercy of Krishna, one develops a taste for devotional service. You know, we see that in the examples of devotees like Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj, whilst he was the emperor of the world, I think it was the emperor of the, he was the emperor of the universe, wasn't he? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. You know, he's an extremely powerful personality. But if we look at those prayers that describe the behavior of Maharaj Ambarish, we find some striking comparisons with the things that we do. In other words, he was engaged in the basic practices, the very simple practices of devotional service. Right? Savai mana Krishna padala vindayo. He was always thinking of Krishna. Vachampsi Vaikuntha Gunanuvarnane. He was engaged in hearing and chanting, just as we do, about the glories of and the qualities of Vaikuntha. Karo Harer Karo Harer Mandira Marjanadishu. Karo Harer Mandira. What does that mean? He went to the temple. Temple Karo. Right? Mandira Karo. He went to the temple. And what did he do when he got to the temple? Marjanadishu. He cleaned the temple. What, you know, when you join the temple, what's the first thing that you get to do? At least in my day, what was the first thing that you get to do when you join the temple? Huh?
Clean the plugs or clean the bathroom.
Clean, yeah. We used to get tested for our sincerity. Huh? In fact, actually, I remember the first night that my wife and I stayed in the temple was Janmashtami. And all of the devotees from Adelaide, or most of them, had gone to Melbourne for the Janmashtami celebrations in Melbourne. And Melbourne was a big temple in those days. A larger temple now, but a big temple. And Adelaide is a smaller town, and so it was a smaller temple, so it only had about 8 devotees in it. So half a dozen of them went to Melbourne. So Sikhi Puchadara, I don't know if you know Sikhi Puchadara, you may know him. He enthusiastically was encouraging Achintarupa and I to stay in the temple for Janmashtami. We didn't know why, but we found out later on. At 12:30, after the celebrations had finished and we'd served the feast up, 1 o'clock in the morning, Sikhi Puja said, "Bhakta Andy, would you like to clean the kitchen?" So anyway, that was our first test, I guess you could say. Actually, I didn't mind. I was very enthusiastic at that stage of my devotional career. And so we just thought, yep, okay, we'll clean the kitchen. We were shown our beds, and basically it was the concrete floor. Or I think my wife got to sleep on a wooden floor. And I remember actually I went to bed at say 2 o'clock in the morning, and then the alarm clock went off at 4. And I enthusiastically jumped out of bed. "Yeah, come on Prabhus, let's go, Mangaladi." And all the brahmacharis were like, "Oh." Actually there was only 2 of them. But they were, "Oh Prabhu, take it easy." Anyway, Maharaj Ambarish was engaged in the very simple activities of devotional service that anybody can be engaged in and make progress from. Even the most simplest service to Krishna, when performed with the right mood and with the right mentality is immensely purifying, if we'll let it purify us. I used to always struggle with the kitchen clean-up, actually. In the mill, you struggled with it too? Used to take 3 hours to clean the kitchen. And usually, because it was a difficult task, I have to psych myself up to do it. But what I discovered early on in the piece was if you just got into it, threw yourself into the service and absorbed yourself in doing things efficiently and effectively, then by the end, when you finished, you came out enthused, purified, enlivened.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Prabhupada's idea of cooking in the kitchen was to clean up as you go. So it should never have taken 3 hours to clean that kitchen.
No, well, what the 9 o'clock cooks used to do was, if there were dirty pots, they'd bring them into you as the kitchen clean-up man.
Yeah.
And you had to do whatever they told you to do because they were a Brahmin and you were just a new bhakta.
Yeah.
And of course, anyway, that principle hadn't been embraced and probably still hasn't been embraced in the Melbourne Temple. But you're right, yes. The kitchen should be cleaner when you leave than when you came in, shouldn't it? That would have been great for the kitchen clean-up man, but anyway. So, it's interesting, the positive aspects of devotional service aren't that complicated. What else was he doing? Shrutim chakarya chutta satkatodaye. Okay, Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanuvanane. He was describing the qualities of Vaikuntha, but here, Shrutim chakarya chutta satkatodaye. He was hearing the kata, satkata. Makunda Lingalaya Darshane Drisho. What do you think that means? Mukunda Linga. He was going to the temple and greeting the deities, right? Offering his obeisances. Something that we do every day. Tadbritya Gatras Parasinga Sangamam. His body in touching the body of the devotee, right? When we meet our friends, what do?
We can praise them.
Praise them, yeah. Offer obeisances, and then what? Yeah. But what was Ambarish Maharaj doing? Embrace them. What did Krishna do when he met Lord Brahma in the Bhagavatam, in the second canto of the Bhagavatam? What did he do? Shook his hand. Congratulations, well done. Huh? So there's embracing the devotees, shaking their hands, being friendly with you, because they are our friends. His nostrils, Granam Chatat Pada Saroja Sorabhe. His nostrils in smelling the flavour of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. Srimat Tulasya Rasanam Tad Apite. Tasting the tulsi. Very simple activities of Maharaj Ambarish. These are the positive engagements. We've got the negative prohibitions, things to be avoided, and the positive engagements. The problem is we're attracted to things other than the activities of devotional service. So on the one hand, generally speaking, we follow the regulated principles and are engaged wholeheartedly in devotional service, but sometimes devotees have difficulty and fall prey to not following the regulated principles. And instead of engaging in the positive activities of devotional service, we are attracted to performing other activities not related to Krishna. So, how does one make progress? This is the stage of anatta nivritti, wherein when one comes into the association of the devotees, then automatically one engages in the process of devotional service, bhajana kriya. Then the next stage of bhajana kriya is this stage of anatta nivritti, whereby one has to very firmly follow the orders of the spiritual master. One has to follow strictly the injunctions which are given within the scripture, and by carefully avoiding the negative prohibitions and fully engaging in devotional service, one, by Krishna's grace and by Krishna's mercy, is able to achieve a higher taste in the performance of devotional service. And then, as a result of experiencing the higher taste, then one is able to withhold or withstand the urges to do otherwise. You know, we have material bodies, and as a result of having a material body, that means we'll also have material desires. This is not an unusual thing. It's not strange or odd for us to be attracted. We've been in the material world for countless births, and so it's not unusual for one to be subject to the pushings and pullings of the material energy. But as Krishna explains later on, just as the rivers flow into the ocean but don't disturb it, don't break its banks, so similarly also for one who's advanced beyond the stage of anatta nivritti and who's become steady in devotional service and has achieved a taste in devotional service, then those desires or those thoughts, as our senses are engaged with the objects of the senses, then it is not unusual for material desires to manifest. But as they manifest, when one is engaged in devotional service fully and has achieved the mercy of Krishna, then one is able to remain fixed or steady or peaceful. Where are we here? Yeah. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Okay. Here's a test. How many of us are only absorbed in thinking of the satisfaction of Krishna? Nobody. All humble, right? Humble devotees. Okay. Hands up those who 50% think of the satisfaction of Krishna. Please raise your hands. 50%. We're going to test your humility here. 75%? This is a test. Prabhupada says here. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. There's a test. We can test. How Krishna conscious am I? If that's the standard. It was interesting what Mukunda Dada said this morning. Not easy to be a devotee. Manusyanam sahasreshu kaschid yattati siddhaye yattatam api siddhanam. What is it? Kaschin mam viti tatvataha Hardly one, out of many thousands among men, hardly one comes to the realization that they're not the body, that they're spiritual by nature, or even ponders these things, right? Hardly one, and of those, hardly one comes to the point of understanding that they're not the body, that they're actually a servant of Krishna. Very, very rare. And then out of those, it's rare again for one to actually know Krishna in truth. But this is our measure, right? Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment, because he's only concerned about what pleases Krishna, and will only do those things that are positive or conducive to Krishna's pleasure. This is, as Vrindavan Maharaj was explaining in Melbourne, the gold standard for activity, right? The gold standard of activity is, if it pleases Krishna, then it's bona fide. And if it doesn't please Krishna, then we shouldn't have anything to do with it. Right? And in the stage of anatta nivritti, that's the test. We have to be constantly testing ourselves. Is this activity conducive for the pleasure of Krishna? Is it positive for Krishna's pleasure? And this is the measure of a pure devotee. They're only engaged in activities that are, and if it's not pleasing to Krishna, they won't have anything to do with it. And as Prabhupada says here, Arjuna is prepared in the final course of events to fight on Krishna's behalf, even though initially he gave so many reasons. And we know, warfare, killing, and so forth, disrespecting one's elders, destroying the family traditions, all of these activities ordinarily would be considered abominable. But because Krishna wants the battle, he wants to establish the Pandavas as the rightful heirs to the throne. He wants to see his devotees glorified. And because it's Krishna's desire, therefore Arjuna is prepared to fight and engage in activities which ordinarily would be considered undesirable. Right? If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable. And if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. This is one of the principles, one of the 10 principles of the 64 items of devotional service. In the beginning, one is recommended to take shelter of a spiritual master. Then one should inquire from the spiritual master. We are given principles within the Shastra. The Shruti and the Smriti give us principles on how we should act, how we should behave. The spiritual master, or the spiritual masters, because generally speaking we have more than one siksha, or more than one instructor, guru. The spiritual masters teach us how to apply those principles in day-to-day life. And it mentions in these items that upon accepting the instruction of the spiritual master, then one has to be prepared to give up things that one would ordinarily embrace, and to accept things that one might ordinarily reject or not have anything to do with. And this is the measure. The measure is, if it is pleasing to Krishna, then we'll do it. If it's not pleasing to Krishna, then we will avoid it. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control, because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. So yes, we're engaged on the sensual platform, but we understand to whom the senses belong. Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. We know that Krishna is the proprietor. And we know that he is the proprietor of the senses. So we use Krishna's senses. They're not actually our senses, but they belong to Krishna. We use those senses ideally for Krishna's pleasure, for Krishna's service. Now, being able to do that in full Krishna consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord. This consciousness of doing everything for Krishna is the causeless mercy of the Lord. And how do we get that mercy? Ideally, we get that mercy by the association of the devotees. What's that verse? Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado yasya prasadam nagati katopi. So, by Krishna's mercy we get the association of the devotees, and by the association of the devotees we get Krishna's mercy. That mercy comes in many, many forms. I remember the first time I met a devotee was on the street in Adelaide, and I saw him coming and he saw me, and I thought, I'm not going to give this guy any money if he asks for it. Huh? So the devotee came up to me and he gave me a card, and I was expecting him to ask me for a donation, but he just gave me the card and he said, this is for you, and then he went away. And I was shocked, because I was disarmed, because I thought he was going to ask me for money and he didn't. So anyway, I took the card, and on that card was the Maha Mantra. Right? And I took it home and I stuck it up on my pin-up board. And that card stayed on my pin-up board for many months. And then at one stage, when I was going through a bit of an existential crisis, actually I was fighting with my father, and I was deciding whether I should leave home or not. And I saw the mantra and I thought, oh, there's a mantra. Mantras are for peace. I'm not peaceful, so if I want to be peaceful, then I should chant the mantra. Right? So I started to chant Hare Krishna. I learned how to chant the Hare Krishna mantra from that card that that devotee gave me. And when I couldn't sleep at night, then I used to chant Hare Krishna and chant myself to sleep. Right? So, looking back on it, I felt, or I feel myself greatly fortunate that I met that devotee and that he gave me the mantra card, and from that mantra card, even though I was chanting Hare Krishna for material purposes, still I felt some benefit. I got some benefit from that association. Later on, when I went to the temple, first time I went to the Sunday feast, and the devotee who was preaching to us said, you should chant Hare Krishna. And I said, yeah, sure, I know how to chant Hare Krishna. And Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And he said, okay, if you can chant Hare Krishna, then you should chant 16 rounds on the beads. Huh? And I said, actually my wife and I, we said, all right, okay, no worries, we'll do that. So we went home with our beads, and the next morning got up at 6:30 and started chanting our 16 rounds. The next week we went back to the temple, and it was the Sunday feast, and the devotee who was preaching to us said, are you chanting 16 rounds? We said, yep, we're chanting 16 rounds. He said, okay, if you're chanting 16 rounds, now you've got to come for Mangalati. We said, oh, all right. Actually, the devotee said it was Julan Yatra beginning the next day, and they said, if you come for Mangalarti, we'll be swinging Radha and Krishna at Mangalarti. So my wife and I said, oh, fantastic, we'll get to swing Krishna. So we got up early and went to the temple, and at Mangalarti, the devotees just had a BBT picture hanging from the wall, and we were swinging the. Well, there's a bit of a swizz. But anyway, we started going to Mangalarti. So, by the association of the devotees and by their enthusiasm and their encouragement and their dedication to Srila Prabhupada, we were encouraged to take to the process of devotional service. All of us, practically speaking, by the association of Srila Prabhupada, by the association of Srila Prabhupada in his books, by the association of Srila Prabhupada's disciples or his grand disciples, we've gotten Krishna's mercy. And of course we have to keep making ourselves eligible for that mercy in order to advance from the stage of still being attracted to material allurements, as is demonstrated here by the Jayato Vishayam Pumsam verses, the two verses before, and being bewildered by the material energy, by getting that mercy through the mercy of Krishna's devotees, and through their mercy being engaged fully in the process of devotional service, one will get Krishna's mercy and be elevated to this platform where one is neither attached nor detached from the material energy, but rather one sees the material energy as being Krishna's and using it for Krishna's service and being satisfied, fully satisfied in that engagement and being fully absorbed in that relationship with Krishna. So I think I might finish here. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
So, Hare Krishna Prabhu, you were asking about 50%, 75% or whatever.
What did you come up with?
I'm sorry?
What did you come up with?
Well, when I just joined, I thought, okay, 4 principles, what's the big deal about it? I'm a pure devotee. So it would be then 100%. For now, it looks like 0%. So...
That's good. You're making advancement.
Yeah. But still at the same time, even though, some gross principles, sometimes there is the question, are we really focusing on pleasing Krishna or pleasing your subtle desires, and then it becomes like tricky.
Yeah.
What to do and
Yes.
how to, because in this case Arjuna had Krishna there,
Yeah.
and we don't always have, of course Krishna is there, but in a different way. So maybe there's you could give some guidance or from your experience.
Right. Yeah. Well, Krishna is here in the form of the Bhagavad Gita, right? And Krishna is here in the form of his devotees, and especially he's in the form of the spiritual master or the spiritual masters who give us guidance. We need to learn how to take advantage of our spiritual guides. Or first of all, we need to have spiritual guides, and then we need to learn how to take advantage of them. And that may be a little difficult because some of the attachments, as you say, they're more subtle and they're more personal in one sense. And so we're afraid to reveal those innermost attachments for fear of revealing, who we really are. And that is embarrassing. Especially, as you say, when we joined in our youth and we were super enthusiastic and we felt like we were giving 100%, and now we feel, that we not doing anything. Right? So there's a mountain of issues that we have to deal with. But generally speaking, most of our issues are fairly simple, and they can be extricated from the heart if we sincerely, are able to reveal our misgivings and misfortunes to somebody whom we trust and whom we know will help guide us in the right direction. Mukundadada made a nice point this morning, and Prabhupada also criticised his disciples, sometimes in a joking way. In Melbourne, he played the part of a book distributor, and a book distributor meeting somebody on the street, and the person on the street, Prabhupada, was saying, what is the book about? And then Prabhupada played the role of book distributor, saying, no, it's for you, without explaining what's in it. And so another mechanism or vehicle through which we can purify the heart is by studying the scripture also, studying the Bhagavad Gita and studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's word, so and it's for us, it's applicable to us, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is about Krishna only and Krishna's devotees. And often, especially in the Bhagavatam and also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how individual devotees dealt with issues and problems and how they were purified through the practice of devotional service. But I think having spiritual guides or friendships with the devotees, that's topmost in my mind in terms of removing obstacles. But sincere chanting of Hare Krishna, also japa, good japa, very important. The chanting of Hare Krishna is like the Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a description of refining sugarcane juice so that you get lozenges, sweets basically. And when you start boiling the sugarcane, then froth and dirt and impurities bubble to the top, and then they have to be scooped off and thrown away. So when we're chanting japa, then things will come up, and then we have to be expert in more or less ignoring them. That's the scooping off process, and concentrating more on our prayer of my Lord, O energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service. So deeper and more focused japa is also essential in removing impurities within the heart. Discussions with the devotees can help us identify, what are the problems. But then we need to, place ourselves before Krishna in a mood of submission and in supplication. Have you heard of the word supplication? supplication, to supplicate in the Christian, in the liturgy of the Christian Church. There's in the Mass, in the service, there's a prayer of supplication, and I remember there's one line which goes, "I am not worthy so much as to gather up the crumbs under thy table." Right? So it's the mood of presenting oneself before Krishna completely as a supplicant, surrendering, basically. Surrendering to Krishna. So, what else? Anybody else can think of solutions?
That's a nice answer.
There's more. There's more can be done.
I found when I was just first living in the temple that I wrote to Srila Prabhupada about this. I said, I'm living with people who in ordinary circumstances I would never, ever spend 2 minutes with. It's very difficult. Very difficult to adjust to this. I even asked him, do you think it would be better if I just moved out of the temple so I avoid offenses to these devotees, because I understood the concept of offending devotees.
Yeah.
So Prabhupada wrote back. He simply said, please don't move out of the temple. Always stay in the temple so that you can follow all the regulative principles. By this, even though I was so new, by this I understood he meant more than just the 4 regulative principles. He meant the timings and the association and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And just getting around to tolerating situations and still maintaining your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Of course, it's always been a challenge even ever since, but still, because he gave me that directive, I can never leave somehow.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
and you will find some like-minded people, and it will be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was eventually my wife and I moved from Adelaide to Melbourne. And we thought that was going to be beneficial for our devotional service, because we were leaving all of our friends and bad association in one city and moving to another. But what I didn't realise was that we actually had friends in that temple, and they were Sikhi Pucha especially. He really looked after us and cared for us. And when we went to Melbourne, then we didn't know anybody, and I really felt the pinch of not having a friend. And as you say, I look around and I think, if I had a choice, none of these people would be my friends. And in fact, one of them, the temple commander, whose name I won't mention at the time, he was a bully, and he used to bully me. And so, and I worked it out after a while, this guy's a bully. But, you want to be a devotee, and you actually got people who are trying to, for whatever reason, disrupt your service. But somehow, by Krishna's mercy, I remember there was a stage, we were studying the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I don't know if anybody was reading my mind or not, but I remember for a few weeks, every person who gave the Bhagavatam to us would say, no matter whatever happens, you should never leave the association of the devotees. And I was just thinking, when am I going to have a friend? When am I going to have a friend? And eventually, over time, now I have so many friends in so many temples all over the world. I have more friends now as a devotee than I would have ever had as a non-devotee. Ever.
Well, this topic of friendship is very important, especially in devotee environment. you said that it is good to have spiritual guides,
Yeah.
but at some point you want to reveal your and to get some good guidance, but often the other person is not capable of handling your secrets or whatever, and before you know it, it's all over the place. So that is one thing. And the other thing is that I feel that especially in devotee environment, we still have that mentality of judging and qualifying others, in order to feel ourselves better than the other. So that is a mentality which, pulls us every time down and doesn't give us the environment to speak our heart and get help from others to, get the push going up.
Sometimes you have to depend on Krishna as well. If you can't trust the devotees, then you've got to fall back on Krishna. But we are recommended to learn the art of discrimination. Something that Mukunda Dada mentioned this morning. That's the symptom of a Majjhim Adhikari, right? Kanishta thinks I'm the best, right? But a Majjhim Adhikari is starting to develop humility and realize that I'm not the best. I have anarthas, I have attachments, I have work to do on myself. So that's progress. And we need to be able to identify who we can trust and who we should avoid, even as devotees. Or shall we say, in ISKCON there's a huge spectrum of devotee. My wife was saying to me this morning, sometimes I feel a bit schizophrenic because I'm dealing with devotees and they're doing things that I wouldn't do, but they're maybe people that we joined up with, but they're going down the coffee shop and they're doing this and they're doing that, but we have to treat them because they're chanting Hare Krishna. Then Rupa Goswami recommends we should treat them with respect, right? What is it? Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta. It's recommended that we should respect anybody who chants the name of Krishna, right? But we offer obeisances to those who have taken dikshasti chet pranati bis bhajantam isham. So for those who have taken initiation and are following strictly, we offer our obeisance to them and we associate with them. Now, out of those devotees who are strictly following, there will be those who have made advancement, who are freed from that, from that tendency to criticize others. Now, criticizing others and being discriminating is different. We need to be able to use the power of discrimination to be able to identify who's a like-minded devotee, who we should associate with, and who we should, be friendly with and be cordial with, but not close association. So ideally, within ISKCON, we want to build our communities so that we have, that association that we can trust and that we can honour and that we feel respect. We want to be respected, and we can respect them as well. It's a mutual, it's mutual because of their dedication and the commitment to Krishna consciousness. So we do have to discriminate. If we can't find that association, then we have to take advantage. My experience is that even younger devotees, because they tend to be very, they're enthusiastic, they've got youth, they're not so jaded with cynicism like, us older fellows. And we can actually benefit from their association. We don't reveal all of our problems, it's like just, but we take their association and be encouraged by their enthusiasm. and their determination, their dedication. And if we can't find people who we can reveal everything to, then that's where we have to, reveal it to Krishna. Right? Chanting Hare Krishna in our japa to the deity. What do you think? Any comments? Any advice from anyone?
Krishna said, surrender unto me and I shall reward you accordingly.
Can you
Yeah.
speak to the microphone so the rest of the world?
Krishna is saying in the Gita, surrender unto me and I shall reward you accordingly.
Yeah.
So you can explain.
Ye yatamma prapadyante tangstadaiva bhajami aham. That verse. Yeah, go on. What's the question?
Surrender unto me and I shall reward you accordingly.
Yeah. So what does the accordingly mean?
Yeah.
As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Yay! Let's have a look. Let's see what Prabhupada says. 4:11.
Some are different, but we have to respect them too.
Yeah. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that those who are fruitive workers looking for some benefit, then Krishna will give them that benefit. Those who are impersonalists and worship the impersonal form, then that's what they'll achieve. Those who want Krishna as one devotee may want Krishna as Supreme Master, another as his personal friend, another as his son, and still another as his lover. Krishna rewards all the devotees equally according to their different intensities of love for him. Right? So, Krishna basically reciprocates with the devotee according to their mood or according to their intensity of their desire. How does that sound?
Sometimes, we see devotees, do things which sometimes we are not doing that, but we see it, we say this is strict principle we are following, and sometimes devotees, they go out and eat like that, So I was wondering that why, we are following the same principle, the same scriptures, then when devotees do that, it kind of a little shaky for, I just think something like, why, I'm seeing this, maybe this is reality, or this is real, because sometimes we're not doing things we're supposed to do that, and we see devotee doing, something out. I'm not, like generally speaking, I'm not say like special individual, but sometimes I see that personal.
Doing things that ordinarily wouldn't be recommended for a devotee.
Sometimes the scripture said the 4 basic principles, and Prabhupada said that we should only eat prasadam that up to the Lord. Like eating prasadam not offered is a mouthful of sin.
Yeah. Bunjate te
Bring something out of
tadam bachancha makaranat. So you were saying, why do they do that? Why does Krishna allow it? Or will they achieve Krishna? The fact of the matter is that if we're given the regulated principles as like a prop, if you like, because we're not...
A fence, not a prop. Fence. To protect us.
Yeah, okay, a fence to protect us. Well, you know, in the watering of the Bhakti Lata beads, the fence is to keep out bad association, right? So, and the unwanted weeds grow up and choke the plant. So these activities are really the unwanted weeds, and often, you know, they come from outside also through bad association.
Because you go outside the fence. Because you go outside the fence.
They go outside the fence. Yes. They've gone outside the fence. So, Krishna's fulfilling their desires. Right? Let's go to the movies. Let's go to the Buddhist restaurant. Let's I don't know, whatever it is.
Let's go to Disneyland.
Let's go to Disneyland. Yep.
That last paragraph in the purport. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization.
Is that in Yayatamam
That's the
Prapanchante?
last paragraph.
The last paragraph.
I'm still stuck.
Okay, where is that?
That's the translation of Bhakti Rasamrita. One of those words.
Of which verse?
411? 411?
No, sorry, it's 410.
410.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's Ado Shraddha. Yeah, you have to have the faith. Yeah. So you can understand that if a devotee is not following the principles, then they're being rewarded for their desire, and they won't get Krishna, or it'll take a little longer to get Krishna. You know, there's that story that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would tell of the wedding party. Have you heard that story of the wedding party? No. In Bengal, all over India it's traditional to have a wedding party, but in Bengal especially, there was a lot of canal systems and they were used for transport. So there was a wedding, they had a party, and at the end of the party the the groom's family took the bride onto the boat and they were ready to go home, and the boatman was going to paddle them home throughout the night. They were all jolly and partying, and then in the morning when the sun came up they noticed that they hadn't left the place where they had the wedding because they hadn't untied the boat. Yeah. Right. So they were rowing, right? They were rowing and rowing, but they hadn't undone the... So...
You must have been drunk.
Well, it was a wedding party. So a devotee is like that sometimes. You know, we're following the process of devotional service, and we're doing the positive things, but we haven't given up our attachment to material things. And so sometimes when that weed of attachment chokes up our devotional service, we engage in those activities, or those activities as manifestations of our attachment, despite the fact that we have done so much devotional service. So one has to learn how to cut the knot. Right? That's what Bhagavatam says. one has to cut the knot with transcendental knowledge. That's why the association of devotees is so important, because by serving the devotees, one develops a taste for hearing the topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam and entering into them deeply, so that one's able to recognise that's an attachment, that's a weed, I need to get rid of it. Right? And very often we're expert at seeing the weeds in other people, but not seeing the weeds in ourselves. That's where we need to, it needs to be focused within. Okay, nearly 7 o'clock. We should call it quits, I think. Is that all right?